All right, guys, I'm going to get this started. Again, we're going to record this so folks can see what's happening. If you have any questions, you can pop them in the chat. There's not a lot of us here, so you can just sort of shout out and let me know what's going on. But make sure if you're not actually asking a question that you're muted. It just gets a lot of weird feedback stuff. So we want to limit that. All right, let me share my screen. All right, we all seeing this? All right, excellent. All right, so we are, at that spring break point. So I'm sure everybody's plantar fasciitis and definite shoulder aches and stomach aches and knee problems are all sort of back in full swing. Hopefully you got a little bit of time over the weekend to get some rest and recuperate for the final push here of the season. All right, so first thing we want to talk about is we want to talk about uniforms. We're getting all these reports of guys dressed differently. They forgot their stuff. They don't have a long sleeve shirt. They didn't think they would need one because it is April. Well, I was doing a game yesterday and it was like 50 degrees and raining, and I was in pretty much everything that I can own. So we live in Georgia. If you don't like the weather, wait 15 minutes, it will change. You need to bring absolutely everything that you have with you when you come to one of these games, okay? Officials have to be dressed identically. You've got to communicate beforehand. I understand that you're late and you weren't at the pregame because of traffic. Happens all the time. Totally get it. But you should call and find out what you're wearing so that when you do run out on the field, right, that we look the same. And when we're talking on the field, I am talking when you walk onto the field before you've certified coaches, you should be dressed identically, right? If you don't have a required piece of equipment, ask one of your partners, reach out to a mentor. And if you need, assistance getting something, reach out to a board member. We will make this happen for you. But we really do need to be dressed, identically. This is kind of what I'm talking about. We have 3 different outfits here. Okay. That's not okay. This means that we didn't communicate beforehand. We got a guy in a jacket and then the guy in the short sleeve with the long sleeves underneath. Not acceptable, right? The crew decides, and we should be aware of people's comfort levels, but the R has the final decision. Bring everything. Okay, we don't get to choose what our uniform is. We're really one of the few people out there that is often getting paid, right? So we need to look like we know what we're doing. It is literally the best thing that can make your games go easier for you. Okay, and let's make sure that the hat's nice and that the pants are tailored and that the belt looks good and the shoes look good. I know it's hard to keep up. But that's the expectation. Okay. All right, signals. 90% of the calls that we get and the issues that we get are not with the call. I can't tell you how many pieces of video I have reviewed where I agree with what the crew decided to do. Where it goes off the rails is that we give the wrong signal or we don't communicate what the actual foul was. And so people don't know what's going on. So, if you look like an octopus falling out of a tree, that's not good. If you look like this guy at the car dealership, that's not good. So make sure you're using the correct signals. They should be big and sharp. People in the upper decks should know what's happening. without hearing what you're saying. Don't rush. There's no advantage to being really quick with the call if nobody knows what the call is. So really, let's slow down when we give that push call. Loose, push, red ball. That is way better than a boom, and people are running in different directions. Okay. Don't be angry or too happy when you signal a foul. Again, your tone can be really important here. Coaches don't want to feel like you got them or that you're giving it to the other guy, right? Make sure you're just reporting the information. Watch yourself on film. That's the best advice that I can give to you. What you think you're doing and what you're actually doing are often very different things. So really try to slow down here. Jeremy, if you want to jump in here, the big second thing I want to talk about with communication is really a lack of communication coming from GLOA officials, right? You have to learn to respond and not react. Coaches are going to be angry that a call didn't go their way. Coaches are going to be frustrated that their defense keeps cross-checking. But we cannot go in to that situation and pour gasoline on the fire. You have to understand the coach is there to win. That is what he is getting paid to do. So let's make sure we understand that. Coach, I hear you. Coach, that looks bad, right? But that's not what we saw. This is what we saw. I will watch for that. I hear you. Coach, I'm here if you need a timeout, right? This is not a debate. Winning does not look like you convincing the coach that you have mastered the rules and we're in the right spot. This is about giving the coach information that he needs. There was a situation in the last couple of weeks where one of our officials says, well, I'm not talking to you anymore. That is absolutely 100% not acceptable, right? A coach needs and requires you to give them information. Okay, so you have to keep these lines of communication open. You are not going in there to win them over. That is not what is happening. Okay, and way too many times I feel like we're trying to explain to them what's right and what the rules say. This is not the time and the place to have that conversation. Coach, this is the rule. This is what we saw. They just need to understand what's happening on the field and how you're calling the game. Right? You can't get into a debate with them, but you have to give them the information, how many timeouts they have. Why did you call that a slash? How is that different from the one before? Right? I think the biggest thing that you can say here is it's okay to not answer statements. If the coach said, well, that's a slash, that's not a question. I'm not answering that statement, right? These are all really important things, but you got to keep these lines of communication open. And if you're worried that it's going to get heated and the coach is going to become an issue for you, verbal warning, loose ball conduct foul, award ball to the opposing team, conduct foul with B in possession, right? 30-second penalty, unsportsmanlike conduct, and then potentially ejection. 90% of the time, when we have really bad relationships with coaches, it's the officials who are not managing the situation. You're not there to convince the coach that you're right. So get play moving, give them the information and get things moving on. Don't react personally to this, right? Let them know where your line is. Coach, hey, that's enough, right? But we can't just cut off all communication, because then in order for the coach to get your attention, he's got to escalate, then you escalate, and it just looks like two people having a fight, okay? We have to be calm when everybody around us is sort of in the fits of passion that this game can bring out in people. We have to be the ones that are controlling the tone and the tempo. Jeremy, you got anything?
Yeah, I think one of the better ones I've learned from Skip Cooper, a veteran official, is to, when a coach is saying something to you, is to say understood. And that's not, agreeing with the coach or disagreeing with him. It's just that you heard the coach and you've acknowledged that coach. It's a really good technique I've adopted. But Greg is right. You can't just say, I'm not going to communicate with you. So try that one out. See if it works for you.
Yeah. Know the rules. If you're going to officiate lacrosse, we need to know the rules. If you're going to bring the rules up to a coach, you better know the rules cold. Don't guess and don't assume, right? We are the paid experts, so we need to get it right. And there's a couple of rules that people have been sort of surprised about this season that I want to make sure we understand, right? The goalie, if he is out of the crease and play is stopped, gets 5 seconds to return to the crease. It does not matter that it was an end line shot or a pass or that the goalie ran to the other side of the field on a clear and took a shot. Once the play is whistled dead, the goalie gets 5 seconds. Okay. Remember, a shooter must be grounded before, during, and after a shot, right? So you can't jump up into the crease and land in the crease even after the ball's in the net. Okay. That's the college rule: before, during, and after a shot, right? 10 count does not begin until a team initially gains possession in their offensive end. Okay. I have seen plays where, the defense intercepts the ball, the riding team checks the ball out, picks it up in the alley, and we don't have a new 10 count going, right? That's a change of possession. That's an initial possession in their offensive end. We've got to have a 10 count going. I have seen loose balls crossing the midline where people start giving that count. It's when you have possession. And again, possession is carrying, cradling, passing, and shooting. A goal can be disallowed up to the next faceoff. Right? So if you're walking up to do that face-off and your partner comes running in and says, they've got 7 on this side, they're offsides, you can wipe out that goal. Right? You better be right that they had 7, but you have until the next face-off to disallow a goal. Once you have that face-off, that goal is locked in for all intents and purposes. There are some weird things. If you didn't know the thing you knew, I highly recommend reading about how to disallow a goal and mistakes by officials. Those are 2 rules that if you want to be an R, if you want to be the guy that's doing those big games, this is the random stuff that you got to know. So really get in that rule book and ask those questions. This is my big one. Everybody telling me they're in the right spot to make the call. And they are way too far away to be able to make an argument for making that call. Okay. I say this all the time. You can make the right call and be in the wrong place and no one will believe you. And you can make the wrong call and be in the right place and no one will argue with you. Now, that being said, I would prefer you in the right place and make the right call. But this is a huge credibility issue. Okay. The single side official in 3-man mechanics is to be no more than 5 yards above GLE on the far side and as close to the goal as a lead official. I see way too many guys who are on the 30, 35-yard line or the 25-yard line, and they're out past the numbers. You are incapable of being a goal official if you're that far out. Okay. It's not possible to do. When the lead goes to the end line, the single should step in as if they are the goal official. We have to see dynamic play, right? If you are 10 or on the 10 or 20 or 25-yard line and you're not moving in and out, this is incorrect positioning. Okay. So don't be lazy. Right? Contact your crew before a game. Always hold a pregame, right? I hear guys say, well, we've all been doing this all season. We don't really need to do a pregame. The games only become more meaningful as we get to the end of the season, and we only become more tired. So it's important to be in the right headspace and understand what is going on. Make sure this is a great opportunity for your partners to learn. And so you really want to make sure that that younger guy is getting that experience and all that knowledge, right? Talk to the face-off specialists. If you get out half an hour before and you certify the coaches and you do the coin toss, what are you doing for the other 20 minutes, right? Get the face-off guys together. We're deep in the season, and a lot of those face-off guys are new because people have gotten hurt. So they have not had all the experience and all the pre-games that you might think they have, right? Hustle, move with a purpose. You know, I know our knees are killing us and our hips. And I know that, you know, myself included, could use to lose a couple of pounds. But it is just not acceptable to be walking, particularly as the lead in the single, right? We've got to see. And then use the correct signals. Go do the full out of bounds stuff, right? Let's not be lazy while we're doing this. All right. So, hey, here's an incident report that I basically pulled from a recent submission. It's a great incident report. I think when we fill some of these out, we're kind of lazy. So in the first half, name. When we say name, we don't not mean Johnny. We mean like Johnny Smith, right? Get the full name from the book. Write it on your card. Okay. Get his number. The team was given a conduct for taunting the other team, player playing on defense, waving bye-bye when he passed. Also in the first half, this number 4 was given a 1 minute unsportsmanlike conduct after the referee gave his teammate a technical foul for not giving 5 yards on a restart. And he said, that's a bullshit call. Write down what he says. We don't need to use the ampersand, exclamation point. Like if he dropped an F-bomb, say that he told you to fuck off. They want to know what they say. Okay. We can't just say he was unsportsmanlike, number 3 from, Team White. Right. Scoring to make the game 10-1. He stopped, flipped his stick around and started shooting players, given an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, ejected from the game. Right. Right here, we're using the ramp. We have done all of the things that we're supposed to do, and now we have addressed it. This looks like we are managing the situation as opposed to, hey, this exploded out of nowhere, right? You can't let this little stuff go. You've got to really use this ramp. Start with the verbal warning. Go to the coach and say, hey, coach, number 4 is really given me an issue. He's talking to other players and I have warned him to stop. I'm going to start taking the ball away. That will end. The coach will take care of that. Give the coach the opportunity to take care of that and help you out. All right, I'm going to switch over to some video that I want to show you guys. And just a couple of clips. All right, we seeing this huddle screen? Cool. All right, if anybody, by the way, has not gotten access to Huddle, please let me know. It literally one of the best tools that you can use to improve your officiating. As we get closer to playoff season, you're going to watch some of these teams play, right? So this is kind of what I'm talking about. This is the single is 40 yards away, right? We have got to come in as the signal. So I'm going to go back to this one. Right? Single should be doing the TV jog all the way in. This is a great example. So let's get it back here. White's going to get the ball at X. They are going to drive. What should the lead and the single be doing?
Crash in the crease.
Crash in the crease, right? This is what we've got to see, right? Even if you see it, and even if you've got it, it's really hard to sell it to the coach. One coach is going to be telling you he's in the crease, and one coach is going to be screaming that he's not in the crease, right? So that's not helpful, right? But you have to come back with definitive information and explain what's going on. Now, I have watched this 40 times in super slow-mo, and I don't know if he's in the crease. If his hand is touching the crease, is the one we can't see on his left hand, then this is a no goal. Both those guys have got to crash. And if somebody, whether it's the single or the lead, it's probably the single that's going to have this call. If you have something that says this is a no goal, we have got to be coming in, blowing our whistle and yelling, no, 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 no. If it is a good goal, we should be running in. Now, I will tend to point at you and nod. Jeremy, what do you do? You
Repeat the question, Greg.
What do you do when you know it's a good goal and you're communicating with your partner as you run in?
Well, I'm coming in, I'm doing the goal signal because it's fine for the signal and the lead to both put up the goal signal.
Yeah. Some guys give the thumbs up. Some guys will yell, yes, yes, yes. But it's either a very demonstrative yes, 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 or it is a very demonstrative no goal, no goal, no goal, right? This is what we need to have happen. It is, again, what are the two things that we talk about? Positioning and communication. This is a classic example of that. Okay, so here's our single on the 15-yard line. Now, did that play particularly need to have a single in position? No, but this is incorrect positioning, right? You should be 3 to 5 yards above GLE, okay? And so you've got to be there so that if somebody goes, you know, to the end line or does whatever they do. Let's watch this one again. The lead here never moves. We clearly have a player driving, and we are still 15 yards away. You have got to crash this crease as the lead. The single's kind of following this play in. Again, I think I would prefer the single to be about 3 steps lower and probably on the hash marks. If you are able to work your way into the hash marks, that to me is the sweet spot where you want to be. If you can get yourself to the hash marks, that's where you're going to see these plays. Now, you will get pushed out. That's fine. But the other guy needs to work his way in. If you get pushed out, the other guy slides in. If he gets pushed out, you slide in. And if we've got a play where it's clear that somebody is going to the crease and we can potentially have bodies in the crease, make sure you are crashing the crease. All right, this is definitely a favorite of mine, right? Gordon waits for people to pass him. He gets the table's attention. He gives a really good signal. He is an absolutely no rush. Watch. He does not report with the guy standing in front of him. He waits for that player to pass. I can't tell you how many times people are trying to give signals and there are like 40 players walking in between the table and the table doesn't know what's going on. All right, Jeremy, you want to take the face-off stuff that we've been seeing? Because this is a great example of a really good one.
Sure, do you want to roll it first?
Yeah, let me bring it back here.
All right, guys, some of the things I'm seeing on high school games is, the rule book says you can actually be moving after a set, but my preference is that you get them down, get them set, and not move. Because as someone who played, if I see some movement out of the corner of my eye, I'm thinking I can go ahead and go for it, and I'm going to time my face off. We'd like the two guys too, when they're coming on for the face off, to be looking at coming at different angles if possible. One straight on, one at an angle, looking at different things. The neutral zone, you see how these two guys are at 45-degree angles there?
They're both looking at the same thing. So I would have the helper move directly to look right through where the neutral zone is. Look at the sticks.
Yeah, you can see people in the neutral zone that way, leaning over, right? That sort of thing. The guy who's at the angle can see the guy in front of him, whether his hands are down on the ground, right? But we want to be looking at different things, not duplicating efforts there, and definitely not moving if we can avoid it after set.
Right, and that means, right, I think the helper is otherwise in great position here. If you are outside the girls' circle here, you are too far away to be helpful. Okay.
One other thing too is the helper. I don't like how he's lined up though, because the possibility of him getting hit is worse in that situation. You can open your hips up and actually turn slightly to the wing area.
Mm-hmm.
You could see where those guys are lined up, and you could still see the face off if you just turn your hips slightly to the right.
Yeah. But try that. I think it's really helpful. You can talk about what guys are doing, and you can adjust your positioning based on who's winning the face-off and where they're putting the ball, right? If he's pushing it out right to you, change where you're standing, right? Work with your partners to figure out what's going on. But this is a key part of the game, and I think not moving is really helpful. I would also say for this wing official, I would have this wing official step about 5 yards into the field, towards the middle of the field, because as soon as that whistle is blown, all he's looking at is the back of these players, right? You want to be in here, okay? The other thing I will say about on faceoffs is if we have a pre-whistle violation, it is always the singles restart. It doesn't matter. I keep saying the single running off to get down low. It's the singles restart. And the other two guys need to make sure nobody releases from the defensive restraining line. Nobody can swap players. You can't exchange players. Those guys are behind the defensive restraining line and they can't go anywhere. So just turn around and say freeze. What they're going to try to do is get a guy off so that they could sub on a long pole or a specialist, but they're not allowed to do that. Those guys are released once the next whistle resuming play happens. All right, guys. Well, that's the big thing. If you want, I posted up a article on the 5 C's of communication. Highly recommend reading it. I've stolen ideas from a number of other people. Hopefully, you will realize that, if you look at guys who are doing the big games and you think I'm in better shape and I can run faster than those guys, I would ask you 2 questions. Do you know the rules better than those guys? And can you communicate with coaches better than those guys? Because the reason those guys are on games is because they can do those 2 things, right? If you are the guy that can do those 2 things and run, and you can be a rabbit on a really good crew, that's awesome. But what the assigners are looking for is, can you communicate? Can you manage a game? And do you know the rules so that when weird stuff happens? Everybody hear about the Ohio State glove, right, thing? Here's the deal. If everybody who says they've read the rule book actually read the rule book, it would be like a New York Times bestseller, right? It is not. You got to get in there and know all that weird stuff, because when it happens, we're the ones who have to deal with it. We're the ones who have to know. So be the expert. Get in those rules, really keep hammering away at those rule situations and learning from war stories and watching film. And, you know, really try to do a good job of developing your ability to talk to coaches. What I do and what Jeremy does and what Mike Culver does and what Patrick Joyce do and Tony Roush and Herbert Phillip do, we all have different styles. But I think what we're trying to get to is, can we best address the needs that the coach have while at the same time managing the game and being sportsmanlike and keeping the flow going and getting the information to people who need it, right? That's the hard part. That's the really hard part. So if you got questions on that, let me know. Otherwise, thank you for joining.
Thanks, Greg.
Good call. See you soon.
All right, I'll see you in a sec, buddy.